All right, action.
Hey, I'm Jack.
I'm Zach
And you're a big bad sound.
in Los Angeles.
Fuck. Just use that. Hell yeah. We met 20 years ago. Been best friends for 20 years. And I was out here visiting, just hanging out in Venice. And Zach hit me up saying he'd been doing a bunch of recording with friends and figured that could probably turn itself into a business. And he had a place in Silver Lake, and we built a studio out of that space, and then now have a 2-room facility in Lincoln Heights.
Yeah, the original studio was in a house. I was trying to start it with a friend of mine. He wasn't really interested in starting a recording studio in 2012 or whatever. So Jack was like, fuck it, I hate my job, and this is really cool, like, let's do it. And we just jumped into it.
It just became untenable when we got Rancid loading Rancid's instruments and amps into a spare bedroom that just was a joke. We realized we were just growing too much and wanted the ability to do more specific things and fill more specific needs that we'd had over the years, and the projects we were getting were just not at the level of house studio anymore.
We wanted to find a place where we could at least get a couple rooms, have a larger room for tracking focus things, bigger sounds, drums, strings, whatever, and then another room that's more overdubs or tighter sounding projects where you don't need the volume of air to get the bigger sound. And yeah, just be able to grow.
We started building the space out in 2016. It was an empty warehouse just used for storage for props.
I definitely wanted to make sure we had the proper amount of isolation rooms and little amp closets and whatever we needed to do a lot of live tracking, because that's mostly our focus. We do a lot of bands and live work. So we wanted a console that could support that. So we got a big API, something that not just like an SSL, but something you could track on and get really good tones into tape. And then most of our outboard gear is focused on tracking too. We don't have a lot of like effects processors and reverbs. It's mostly compressors and EQs and vintage preamps and stuff like that, just so we can, I do a lot of committing, printing compression to tape and all that. So a lot of tools like that. There's something about capturing the real moment in the moment that's really special, compressing the rooms on the way in and getting the actual gear to push and distort and kind of become overdriven and things that you can kind of do digitally, but it's not the same. The like non-linearities of analog are super important to getting the sounds I want for the different bands I work with.
I wanted to build a room that when you were a kid thinking about recording, what does that room look like? Because there's a bunch of studios that have been around forever that are the titans of the industry, but we were coming in right in the middle, and it was to our age group. And what does Zach and I see when we're looking at album, like the inside of albums, looking at liner notes? What does that look like to us? And we wanted to build that room of our memories of what recording was supposed to be.
In this room, we have all the traditional like acoustic tiling and the checkerboard floor. And the other room, we have all the like darker stained wood and deeper colors that kind of look like either a Putnam room, or we have the kind of bottom trim that kind of reminds me of Sunset Sound and different things. I'm a fan of studios and I'm a fan of the recording world. So when I got the chance to make my own place, I definitely pulled from a lot of inspiration.
We were really looking for a different space than the A room.
Yeah.
What's the other aspect of recording? Big control room, a lot of space where you can mix, you can camp out for a long time, do a 20-day mix in a studio, or you've recorded a ton of stuff, but you need to just come in, do guitars, like fix a couple things. You hop into this room, you can get your work done and get out.
We brought the SSL over from the old room. It's just a really clean, really high functioning board that a lot of people know how to use because we do a lot of outside engineer work here. And then just a bunch of pre's. I have a bunch of like obscure vintage API style pre's, and then old A ranges and the tree that I love, the tree audio that I love, and the older Focusrite pre's, a bunch of just kind of random things. We're gonna get a bunch more API stuff to match with our console in case people end up doing overdubs in here, and more of a mix mash. Whereas the other room is a lot of the same thing. This is more different flavors for overdubbed kind of things where you can kind of match certain amps to certain pre's to get different sounds and things like that. I think the perfect project is kind of about the artist and how passionate they are about their own work. I work with a lot of different genres, but I mostly work with rock. But my favorite is just someone who gives a shit about what they're doing and it's just so about it and so excited about everything. It brings my energy up, their energy up. The whole production becomes more exciting and everyone's really in it, and you're more willing to stay for long hours and really put in the time to get a really cool record.
It's very clearly not a place that was built beautifully in 1967 and then has just become an image and a space that's just falling apart or was once something that was hot. What we want to do is, if we're hanging out with you for 270 hours, you're our friends. It's kind of like camp, where you build a really intense relationship with someone and then they disappear for a while, and then hopefully they come back to camp and you do it too. And so having our personalities and just our lives a part of the studio became a running thread in every inch of the space.
We spend a lot of time together. We're constantly hanging out with each other. We're talking about how to do stuff at the studio. We're doing all these things. We have to have fun or else we'll drive each other crazy. So it's easy to keep it light and just enjoy what we're doing.
I think we're constantly saying like the other option is spreadsheets.
Yeah.
This is rad.